Well, hello and welcome to Assay TV. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Tim Froude, who is the President, CEO and Director of Sokoman Minerals. Sokoman Minerals are exploring the Moosehead project in Newfoundland. Tim, great to see you this evening. We spoke a few months ago. I wanted to start off our chat today, though, by talking about some of your neighbours up there in Newfoundland. First of all, you have Marathon Gold, who are advancing the Valentine project. They have, I think, that in a pre-feasibility study stage, and Newfound Gold's Queensway project. Both of those companies are current market caps around $600 million, and they've been hitting some pretty impressive intercepts there. Where do you see the similarities between those two projects and your Moosehead project?
Well, thanks, and nice to see you again too, Leo. Yeah, clearly, there's relationships at play here between more of a direct relationship actually between us and Marathon. We actually sit on the same key structure that tears basically through the heart of Newfoundland from the southwest to the northeast. And so we're linked in that term, but that's about where the similarity would kind of end in terms of the host rocks, the style of the mineralization, and clearly the scope of the project for now. But but what it points out to me is the importance of the structure. Geology is important, but for me, the first thing I look for is the structure, and actually, it's the first thing when we're drilling. We look for the structure first, and the mineralization second. So, clearly, that's the important link between us and Marathon. To the east of us is our other neighbor, Newfound Gold. There, the similarities are more striking. And clearly, the comparison between the two is very real and valid. We're sitting in essentially, a sedimentary basin with the same sort of past structural history, the style of veining, and locally the grades are very similar. Although they've had some very stunning results, and as have we. Not to underscore what we have done, but in terms of geology and what looks closer to each other, certainly us and Newfound would have that generality, and of course we're both claiming, I think with many valid reasons, similarities to Fosterville in Australia. But as far as the structural link goes, the direct link, us and Marathon are sitting on the same structure. So yes and no at the same time.
Absolutely. You mentioned the Fosterville mine in Australia. I know that you and your neighbours also talk about similarities. Do you want to sort of go into that in a bit more detail? What are the similarities you're seeing?
Well, geologically, the style of the mineralization and the host rocks are pretty well similar. We're sitting in Paleozoic rocks, roughly the same age, although age is generally not the important criteria. It's the setting of these rocks. They're fine grained sedimentary turbiditic sort of sequences that have undergone the same, or basically the same sort of structural history. These rocks have been tightly folded into a series of very tight up and down, sort of like M's or W type folds, and the veins themselves, just the style of the veins and the chemistry of the veins. We're seeing a lot of similarities with respect to the mineralogy in terms of antimony being a very key sort of pathfinder metal in these systems, and both us and Newfound have have antimony in the systems, as well as little bits of zinc and copper. These trace elements generally are key pathfinders. But in terms of the absolute sort of comparison between the two, yes, there's definitely some real items here that we can definitely hang on to and say, yes, if you're checking off boxes in terms of what you want to see, if you're looking for a Fosterville, certainly what we see at Moosehead and what Newfound see at Queensway, there's a lot of boxes checked off in the positive column.
Because Fosterville, is known as one of the highest grade gold mines around, and I mean, Newfound Gold, they had, an intercept. I think one of them was sort of 93 grams over 19 meters, which is a pretty stunning intercept. What sort of grades have you been seeing at Moosehead?
Well, I could certainly riddle off, a half a dozen, what we call, definite honey holes. We've gotten, 5 meters of 124 grams We've had, I think, 25 meters of about 34 grams, 8 meters of 68 grams. Anytime you get, and this is a key sort of, I guess, measuring stick for how significant a grade is. If you can multiply the grade, in other words, the grams, by the length of the intercept, and if you start getting over 100 or 200, and that's called gram meters, then you're really into something significant. Now, clearly, Fosterville has some just stunning numbers. I mean, they're into the thousands in the gram meters, and I think maybe Newfound maybe have one hole in that category. We have a couple in the 500 range, but if you get anything over 100 gram meters, you're doing pretty well.
Mm. I mean, I guess if Fosterville is the top, you don't need to be number one. If you're sort of up there, then that's probably good enough, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. Well, you're well above average in terms of world grades. I mean, globally, I think the average grade, if you combine all the world's gold mines, I mean, you might have a couple of grams. So, anytime you get into double or triple digits in terms of your grade, and certainly with respect to your gram meters, you've got something very, very, very good.
Mm. So you're currently in your phase 6 of drilling. So what have you done so far? Tell us how that's progressing and how far you've got to go on that.
Well, we started in September last, and our goal was to reach 10,000 meters by the end of the year. We didn't quite get there. A couple of things, because it's so busy here. I mean, I think there was like at one point 6 or 8 companies drilling simultaneously, within 100 kilometers of us here. So, so drills were hard to find, drillers were hard to find, people were hard to find. So instead of having 2 rigs like we intended, we only had one drill for the whole duration of the last quarter of 2020. So we drilled up to, I think, 6,700 meters of the 10,000 meters. So in between all that, we had a fundraise, and we raised over $3 million, which we will put to good use. So the 10,000 meter phase 6 program has now been expanded. We put out news just yesterday, good timing for this interview, by the way, where we announced a minimum of 20,000 meters now for phase 6. We have assurances from the drilling contractor that we will get our second drill, which should arrive around the end of January, maybe the first week of February. So we're going to be firing on all cylinders. We just acquired a new core logging facility with double to possibly triple the capacity for laying out core and getting the work done. We're increasing our staff, so it's going to be a more robust year for us, and I think that's very good news for our shareholders.
Fantastic. So you're able to really ramp things up. I think you just recently released some results, but when do you think you'll have the next sort of batch of results back for investors to look at?
I'm pretty confident we're going to have enough material to put out a release either just prior to or around the end of the month. So they don't have to wait long. It's just a couple of weeks. But yeah, and again, we're at the mercy of a very busy, area here. There's one lab servicing, and now, mind you, Newfound shipped their samples out of the province. I guess they just the capacity was just not there locally. So we'll, but we will remain, with the local lab. But I think, moving forward, there'll be fairly regular, obviously, news releases. So I wouldn't say one a month, but certainly one every couple of months. I don't think would be beyond the the scope, because you really need time to assess these results as well. I mean, you can get I can get an email, tomorrow with a bunch of assays in them. We have to put them in context. We have to put them in the hole. We have to, sort of do the modeling to make a story on it, because it's no good to just throw a bunch of numbers at people. You have to have some meaning to it. So and I think we've been doing a pretty good job, in terms of keeping our shareholders informed. A release a month. So I don't think that's beyond reason, but time will tell, certainly, and how busy things get.
It certainly seems to be a theme. All of the people I'm speaking to at the moment, they're saying that shortage of drill rigs and shortage of space in the assay labs, it's affecting everybody. So I think everyone just has to be a little bit more patient at the moment, I guess. Sure.
Yes, and if the results start coming quicker, I mean, we'll put them out quicker. I mean, we're not just going to sit on them just to sit on them, and I wouldn't do that anyway. That's against the conscience of a PGO. You don't do those things, but I think we've done a pretty good job so far. I think our shareholders, we had a pretty good year, in fact. Overall, if you look at the chart for Sokoman, it's more of a in the right direction, sort of thing, instead of something like that or like this. I think we had a pretty good year. I'm pretty happy with it anyway. I mean, am I ultimately, do I think the share price should be higher? Of course I do. I think we could easily be a double, from what we are now based on results we've had. It's just, the market is what the market is, and it's frustrating, but we're starting off in a good note, and we certainly ended on a good note, 2020, and I think that that path will continue.
What were the initial results from your phase 6 drilling, the first batch you released?
Actually, we had. I'm just going to reach over and read them because they kind of tend to all run together at some point. But we had a stunning hole. Actually, hole 115 actually intersected 2 separate zones in the same hole. One was kind of a surprise. It was an upper zone. We're actually calling it the footwall splay, which again is a common theme at Fosterville. You get these sort of kinks in the structure, and you get these little offsets, and suddenly a zone sort of appears, and they can be quite random. And in fact, we've now seen that we've probably been drilling close to this feature before, but unaware of its actual presence. You wouldn't expect to see it, but you turn the drill a few degrees or whatever, you change angle for whatever reason, and suddenly, bang, here it is. So hole 115, and I'm just going to read you some numbers. Had almost 5 meters of 47 grams, and a lower interval, which is the main zone, 8 meters of 68 grams. And here we go again with the 500 gram meter sort of thing, right? I mean, that's a good hole. That's one of our better holes, So as well, we drilled the hole to test a series of, a cluster of boulders that we had found earlier in the year that averaged, I think, just over an ounce per ton in what we call the South Pond area. And that's a couple of 100 meters south from where we've done most of our drilling. And that intersected at a very shallow depth, again, less than 50 meters, 5 meters at 27 grams, including 2.1 meters at 6.59 grams, so almost 2 ounces. So, and this is just, 50 meters down the hole. So, again, another great hit. And, investors, I think, will be very pleased to know that, this is, quite a distance, a couple 100 meters away from where we've been doing most of our drilling. And, will be an area of focus for us to, see if we can build some scale to this, moving forward. It will be something we'll be looking at early in the program as well. So, certainly news in the first quarter on that area, I think people would welcome.
I mean, those sort of numbers, there's plenty of miners out there who would tear your arm off to have those sort of numbers, I guess. But it sounds like you've got a whole lot of more news flow coming out a little later on. But looking at 2021, what are your sort of, if you were to say your 3 main objectives for 2021, what will they be?
Well, I guess to continue with the with the success with this new footwall splay as part of the Eastern trend. We've got 3. Well, our current treasury is about 4.6 million, of which a good chunk of that is flow through and will be spent this year. So but we want to make sure that we're spending this money in the right way, and targeting areas of higher potential. So areas that we've recently had success in clearly will be areas where we will be focusing. Because at some point people are going to start wondering, well, how big is this thing? How many ounces do they have here? Well, we just don't have enough information yet, Leo, for that sort of assessment. So I think one of the goals for the year will also be to get this thing to a stage where maybe a 4 drill program, and a $5 million or $10 million program is in the cards, and people are there to support us for that. So that's kind of my mission, is to make this thing, clearly a 100,000 meter program, isn't something we can afford right now, but is it something that is possible here? I definitely think so. And I think our mission is to make the thing as big as we can with what we have, and hopefully with enough encouragement to move the thing to the next level.
Absolutely. Get more drills in the ground, get more results out, get more interest from around the world about the project. Well, you've clearly got a busy year ahead, and we look forward to seeing how the results turn out as you release those results over the course of the next year. But thank you very much for joining us today, Tim.
Thank you, Leo.